and we can get started.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, we are live.
Okay, first off, we apologize for this late start, almost an hour and a half late. We were having technical difficulties in the room, and we were unable to do so until now. So, good morning. During the declared emergency, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamlined Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone, or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry, and when your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Panel members participating in today's hearing are Laura Alderson, Neil Palmer, Danny Bellissimo, Stan Kumorik, and I am Michael Clark. I am the panel chair. All registered participants will be participating by audio only, and we also ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaws that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever lots to create new lots, to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you leave your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and in the event of an appeal, the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee rendered here today, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The hearing procedure will be as follows. After we clear some preliminary business matters from the agenda, approval of minutes, and dealing with deferral requests, we will proceed in order, call each item in the order listed in the agenda. In making your submissions where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with an application with their presentation if desired. Where the committee does not require presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to address the committee, and the committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and we have a visual of the clock, and staff will advise when parties are approaching or have exceeded the 5-minute mark, and we will then ask you to wrap up your submissions. When addressing the committee, please remember to start off by clearly stating your name and address, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. So the applicant or agent proceeds first and makes their presentation to the committee. Please note the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals made at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application that's being substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they finish their presentations, and when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut and answer those issues and answer those questions raised by the neighbors, but not to raise or introduce new information at that time. That will then mark the end of the discussion, and the application will then be taken into the committee for a decision. So some preliminary matters to deal with. Firstly, confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting, which I believe is March the 24th. If I could have a motion from a panel member to approve those minutes.
Happy to make that motion for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All seconded by Mr. Bellissimo. Thank you. All in favor? Minutes are approved. Do any panel or staff members have any declarations of interest to declare on the matters before us on this morning's agenda? Okay,
No,
if none
I
to
have one in the
declare.
afternoon, so I'll declare it then.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Secretary Treasurer. Madam Secretary Treasurer, are there any files to be closed?
Not today.
Okay. Okay, the next matters deal with the deferral. We have a number of deferrals noted on the deferral memo that we received from community planning. And let's go through those and clear those off the agenda with everyone's permission. The first item is item number 117, CHAUNCEY. This is to permit a day nursery within a single family dwelling. We do have requests both from transportation in the additional materials and elsewhere, and from community planning requesting a deferral. The planning memo is based on conditions 2 and 5, which is provide adequate time for staff to appropriately review the application, etc. And number 5, in order for a site plan control application to be submitted and circulated for review, as well as transportation. I'll be looking for that. Otherwise, we do have Councillor Grimes and support from 4, 5, and total of 9 support letters. And it appears that the speaker for this application is Nina Hitzler. Is the applicant or agent there?
Yeah, we would like to request a deferral.
Okay. So that's fine. Perhaps just to state for the record, the reason is for the reasons stated by planning staff and
Yes.
by transportation.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So we'll hear you here, see you here again, I guess, at a later hearing. So committee members, any questions of the agent or applicant? Or is anyone prepared to make a motion to defer this?
Danny Bellissimo would like to move for deferral.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconded by Ms. Alderson. Thank you. And all in favor? Matters deferred. So we'll see you here again once those matters have been attended to. Thank you. The next deferral on our memo is item number 8, 47 HARLTON Crescent. We go through these. In some cases, the applicants advise they are not in agreement with community planning. In this case, it's to provide adequate time for staff to appropriately review. And this again is for a detached dwelling with an attached garage with 12 variances. And the councillor, I guess, was also in favor of the deferral as well. So the speaker for this application, just bear with me, is Pedro Pimentel, the agent.
Yes.
As well as the neighbor on the line from 45. Mr. Pimentel.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I request a deferral. We submit already drawings to community planning, revised drawings, but I understand that they need time to review those drawings. So we ask for deferral.
Okay, thank you. Does any of the members have any questions for Mr. Pimentel? Okay, we do have a neighbor on the line right next door, Irene Martins at 45. Welcome, Ms. Martins.
Good morning, committee members and Mr. Chairman. Yes, my name is Irene Martins, and my husband and I are the homeowners of 45 HARLTON Crescent. We're located next door to the east
Yeah,
side.
ma'am, we don't need to hear from you on the merits because the matter is going to be deferred.
Okay, so
Just wanted to weigh in with you. I assume you have no objection with the deferral. Hopefully the application will get better.
okay,
Hopefully there are going to be changes made, and I don't know if you've been in touch with either your neighbor or Mr. Pimentel, their agent, but
No.
it would probably be a good idea for them to communicate with you before this matter is brought back on.
Okay, that would be great if they did, because nobody's communicated with us.
Okay, well,
So I
Mr.
guess I'm-
Pimentel is listening.
Okay, so deferral, I
thank
guess
you.
I'm okay with the deferral.
Okay, thank you. Members, motion to defer, please.
Danny Bellissimo moves for deferral.
Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Alderson. Thank you. All in favor? Matter is deferred for the reasons stated in the memo. Next item, item number 10. Again, condition 2, 65 Silverstone Drive. Again, a detached dwelling with an attached garage with 7 variances and conditions from transportation in the additional materials. And again, it's to a deferral to address planning's comments and to reduce variances. The speaker for this application.
Committee members, I am the Kaushik Sudhar, agent of the
Yes, hold on.
65.
Sir. Speaker is Kaushik Suthar.
Yeah, good morning, Chair and committee member.
Good morning.
Yeah, I want to defer applications to comply with some of planning comments and for the urban forestry comments. And already we submitted the applications to the urban forestry for the tree review. So I want to defer this applications from this committee hearing today.
Okay, and I just checked, there are no other speakers on this application, so members, we need a motion to defer.
Happy to make that motion for deferral.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson.
Danny
Seconded by
Bellissimo
Mr.
seconds the
Bellissimo.
motion.
Thank you, all in favor. The matter is deferred. We'll see you here again, sir, once you resolve those issues and then make changes. And I think, yes, we also have item number 19, 14 Fabian Place. And this is for condition number 2, in order for provide staff adequate time to review, discuss any concerns, obtain potential changes, or secure revised materials. And just the speaker or speakers for this application are Eddie Perez and possibly the neighbor from 12, Fabian, who I believe wrote in a letter of objection and then rescinded that in the additional materials. Mr. Perez, the matter of deferral. Welcome, sir.
Good morning. We would like to defer it. We did make
Mr. Perez, I can't hear you.
Yeah, we would like to defer it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, we would like to defer it. We made some changes which the neighbors are happy with, but we also noticed that one of the variances we're missing, which is coverage. Coverage is not there, and it should have been. And so because of that, we would like to defer it so that the variances are accurate and we get all of them that we need approved. So we'd like to defer for that matter.
Okay, there is no one on the line. We do have, I think, an opposition letter. We have another one from 20 Drury Lane, but I see the neighbor next door has rescinded his objection. So that's a good sign. Okay, so on the matter of deferral, I'm just waiting for a motion.
Danny Bellissimo
Happy.
moves.
Thank you. Seconded by
I will second that motion.
Alderson. Thank you. All in favor. Matters deferred. Mr. Perez, we'll see you here again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so in that case, I guess we've dealt with there. I don't see any other deferrals on my list, unless anyone else, if I missed one. In that case, we can start hearing applications. The first application we're going to hear is item number 2, 16 TESTON Boulevard. It's an application to construct a 2-story addition with a basement walkout and a 2nd-story addition above the existing dwelling, and to legalize and maintain the existing enclosed front porch. There are only there are 2 variances. In the additional materials, we have a letter of support from Councilor Nunziata, and we don't have anything else on file. The speaker is Jorge Lacuna.
Yes, good morning, member of committee. Good morning, Chair. My name is Jorge Lacuna. I represent the homeowner from 16 TESTON Boulevard. We designed the increase it to the ground floor for the kitchen. It's about 2 meters, 3 meters, about 3 meters on ground floor. Also, we're planning to do a 2nd floor addition, a new 2nd floor addition.
Right, and we only have these 2 variances. the front line yard setback, which I assume is either an existing condition or accommodate new front porch.
Right.
Oh, it's to maintain and enclose the existing. So that's an existing condition as well. You have a roof eaves, and nothing else. So let's see if committee members have any questions or if someone's ready to weigh in with a motion.
I'm prepared to weigh in with a motion if no one has any questions. I see the counselor is also in support of this application. I'm happy to move for acceptance because it meets the 4 tests as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Danny Bellissimo seconds the motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, you have unanimous approval. You have your application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good day.
You too. Next application is item number 3 for SWAN Avenue. This is an application, it's a revised notice to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 6 variants. Originally there were 5. Interesting, we have a lot of revised notices. Every application, including today, is no exception. Usually they're highlighted to show the changes. In this case, it doesn't show the crossed out version.
So the highlighted ones are usually if they've been made better and no further notice was issued. In this case, a further notice was issued because there was an additional variance or something got worse.
Right. Thank you, Madam Secretary, because I was going to ask because the revised notice is the one with 6, and the original notice was the one with 5, and I was wondering if that got reversed somehow. So thank you for clarifying. The revised notice is because they added a variance. Other than that, we have revised plans, previous decision on at 26 as a precedent from 2021. And we have the applicant revisions to address planning concerns were advised, as well as an arborist report. The speaker for this application is Leo Mastrandrea. Welcome, Mr. Mastrandrea. Is Leo on the line?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. He was on the line and I had unmuted him. He may have dropped off. I know he advised Paul that he had he had another conflicting hearing in another district.
Okay, so
maybe we'll stand it down. I don't see him on the line.
Let's stand it down then, or let's stand it down until we can find him later. Okay, next application is item number 4, 21 Glenellyn Drive East. It's an application to construct a 2-story rear and front additions. A previous Committee of Adjustment application approved variances for gross floor area, front yard, and side yard setbacks. And we have, all we have is the previous decision. We don't have anything else. And the speaker on this application is Joe Cosentino.
Thank you, committee members, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we're planning 3 very small changes. One is a box bay, which adds 12 feet on the first floor, 12 square feet on the second floor, a dormer on the front of the roof, and a small change to the bathroom inside. So they're very minor changes, all within the footprint, all within the original roof line as planned. So there's nothing intrusive. Like I said, mostly cosmetic, box bay, and dormer on the front.
Yeah, and the only variance you're looking for is 0.03 floor space index increase from what you were granted back when you were here last time.
Yes. That's
and it's note you're the agent and not the owner on the sheet it's mentioned.
I am the owner. My wife is here as well, but we are the owners. Yes.
I see. Okay, so Amanda Lee is listed as the owner.
Yes, she is here.
Okay, let's see if anyone has any questions for you, Mr. Cosentino, or if someone's ready for a motion.
Danny Bellissimo would like to weigh in with a simple statement and a motion. Looking at the elevation, there's very little impact on the other proposal, so I find it the variance is minor in nature and move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder for that. Mr. Komaric, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, sir. You have your application has been approved. Okay, next application. Next application is 132 Queens Avenue. It's an application to construct a one-story rear addition with a new rear deck. There are 3 variances. We have urban forestry looking for condition 2. We have a arborist report submitted by the applicant. That's all we have. The speaker is Curtis Van Koolen, agent for the applicant.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, fellow committee members. My name is Curtis Van Koolen, here to represent 132 Queens Avenue.
Very straightforward application. I don't believe we need a presentation. Someone ready? Have any questions for Mr. Van Koolen, or someone ready for a motion? Mr. Kumar?
Yeah, I have no questions. I don't think that other members do either. I find the application to meet the 4 tests and be minor, and therefore would like to move approval.
Thank you. Seconder for that?
Danny Bellissimo.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Application is approved.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, before we move on to item 6, we do have Mr. Mastrandrea on the line, so maybe we can circle back to him.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Can we just, on the previous approval, forgot forestry condition 2?
Yes.
I think it's too late because the person may have dropped off. It has to be part of the motion.
No, I'm still here.
He's still there.
But the motion's already passed.
Okay, so let's amend the motion, and we might as well. I did mention it in the summary at the outset. So.
Correct, and we're aware, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So this is for 132 Queens Ave.
Okay, so we can reopen. Can I have a revised motion, please, Mr. Kumar?
Sorry, move to approve subject to forestry condition 2.
Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Alderson. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, the amended application, including the forestry condition, is approved. Thank you, sir. Okay. Item number, okay, back to Mr. Mastrandrea. We already introduced the matter. What's item number 3, correct? Anyone have any questions for Mr. Mastrandrea? I see that you had 5 variances. You have a revised notice showing you now have 6 variances. Anything you'd like to advise the committee members? I've seen you showed us a precedent at 26 SWAN as to the coverage, correct?
Correct. We also met with planning, and that's why we made those revisions to address their concerns. So now they're satisfied with our proposal.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mastrandrea. Does anyone have any questions for the agent, or is someone ready to weigh in with the motion?
Danny Bellissimo recognizes that this proposal is for a corner lot, has very minimal impact, and we move for approval. Find the variances are minor in nature. Conditional, I believe forestry has one condition on this.
Number 1.
Number 1, yes. Thank you.
I'm happy to second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor?
Thank you.
Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Mastrandrea. See you again.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so returning to item number 6, 132 Wimbledon. It's an application to new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 3 variances. We have arborist report. Planning is requesting condition of approval to be constructed as illustrated on the elevation plans dated January 14th and held with respect to the soffit height. And when the additional materials, we do now have a presentation from the agent. Lindsay Bruce is the agent, the only speaker. Welcome, Mr. Bruce.
Hi.
And I assume you're okay with the also urban forestry as condition number 2. You're okay with planning and arborist conditions, and let us know if you'd like to put your presentation up on the board.
Yep, we're okay with the conditions, and if there's any questions based on the presentation, or if the committee would like to hear anything from it, I'm happy to go through it. But if it's not needed, that's okay too.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bruce. Any questions for the agent, or is someone ready for a motion?
Danny Bellissimo is ready for a motion, but I'd like to recognize that this drawing is very well presented. The illustrations really help us understand the proposal. I move for approval. Find the variances are minor in nature. Conditional on forestry and planning condition as well. And I'll read it. The proposed development shall be constructed as illustrated on the elevation plan submitted January 14th, 2022, and held on file by the Committee of Adjustment as it relates to the soffit height.
Thank you for that motion, Mr. Bellissimo. Seconder for that motion. Mr. Palmer, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Bruce.
Thank you very
We'll
much,
see you
committee.
again. Thank you. Okay, moving right ahead. Item number 7, we have a revised highlighted, the revised notice sheet together with revised plans, revised zoning review, and waiver. And this is an application for a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a 2-story rear addition, and to create an attached garage. And the existing detached garage will be converted into a shed. So there are 6 variances. There now were 6. There are now 5. 2 of those have been revised. We have 2 covers letters regarding the revisions, supporting material, a presentation, which we could perhaps get on the screen. Planning has a condition of approval with respect to the site plan drawings and elevation drawings. And in the additional materials, we now have 3 transportation conditions. And I believe that's all we have. The speaker is Yuritsa Rodriguez, listed as the owner of the property. But
Hi, my
Hello,
name,
Ms. Rodriguez. Are you the agent or one of the co-owners?
I'm the agent and the co-owner with my
Okay,
husband.
thank you. Okay, is he your husband's? John Slan is listed as the owner. You're listed as the agent, but on the sheet, my attendance sheet, it said you're an owner. So now that's clarified. You're both owner and agent. Okay.
Let me explain. John Slana is not the owner or agent. Is not the owner. We sent updated papers that we bought that house. That is not updated by the city yet as the owner.
Okay, so that can be, I guess, revised. But they made the application, but you are now the owner and the applicant. So okay, you are the only speaker registered to speak.
Yes.
Application. Would you like to briefly advise? You're okay, first of all, with the suggested condition from community planning and from urban forestry. You're okay with those conditions?
And I believe transportation has some conditions as well that came in our additional materials.
Yeah, I stated that at the outset, so I was going to get so.
Okay,
Are you okay with all the recommended conditions being imposed, ma'am?
I don't remember seeing the condition of transportation.
Okay, perhaps staff can get them up on the screen.
It doesn't recommend that we approve minor subject to the owner demonstrating compliance with the following conditions to an extent of driveway public road allowance that is aligned with the proposed driveway. Properly dimension and identify the portion of the existing driveway that are no longer required. Include the following conditions: the portion of the existing driveway to the city and the construction of the driveway. Yes, we agree.
Hold on, I seem to have gotten thrown out of here, so I'm just trying to log back in.
Okay. So I do agree with what's written in there for the transportation service recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions for the?
I can't hear anything right now.
Can you hear us?
Now I can hear you. Yes. We have a presentation that we sent.
Yes, we have. So, does anyone have any questions? Oh, okay. Am I back on feedback?
Hold on, Adam or Paul, can you kick out this, no video, Michael?
Yeah, I have to log back in for some reason, so.
Yeah, you were just logged in twice, so that's why you were getting the feedback. It's
I'm
fine.
not touching anything. Okay, I don't really, okay, you've been removed from the meeting. Put that, okay.
It's fine now. You can proceed.
Fine, okay, I just don't see I don't see it, but anyway. Strange, maybe we can fix this. So I don't want to join this because then I'll join twice.
We can see and hear you.
Okay, I can't see or hear anyone, so let me just see if oh, now I'm back. Now I can see. Okay, very good. So committee members, any questions for the speaker? Or someone ready for motion number?
Sir, no questions, but I'm ready for a recommendation.
Okay.
There's no other questions. I'll move for approval. The variances requested as revised are minor in nature, so there's 5 revised variances. So subject to planning. Now, planning had it tied to a site plan dated March 24th, and then I believe we got revised site plans dated maybe March 29th.
Yes.
Okay, so tied to the site plans dated March 29th, subject to forestry condition number 3, and subject to the engineering conditions.
Transportation, I think.
Or transportation conditions, yes.
Okay, thank you for that motion, Mr. Palmer. Seconded for that. Mr.
Any Mr.
Komoric beat you. All in favor? Another unanimous approval. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Enjoy your property.
Thank you so much.
Okay, item 8 has been deferred, so we're moving along to item number 9, 2698 Jane Street. And this is an application. It's an application. An application to construct a south side addition.
Well, that's something we gotta.
Sorry,
Mr.
Mr. Chanfrone. Hello.
I'm suspecting we're not gonna be able to.
Hi, Mr. Chanfrone.
Yeah, that's something we should definitely confirm.
Okay, this is to construct a south side addition to include a new accessibility elevator. There are 2 variances. The side yard setback and signage is not permitted, which they have a sign. This agent is Angelo Cianfroni. And we have revised plans, the site-specific zoning bylaw, a covering letter for the revised plans. Planning has a condition of approval. They want it constructed as illustrated in the elevation plans dated March 25th as it relates to the proposed materials for the sign. And that's all we have. So let's see if Mr. Cianfroni is with us.
Hello, I'm here.
Okay, sir. So I just introduced the application. Is there anything you'd like to advise committee, or I'll just see if anyone has any questions? You're okay with the condition proposed from community planning?
Yes, I am, yes.
Okay, so members, any questions for Mr. Cianfroni, or is someone ready for a motion?
Danny Bellissimo is ready to make a motion. I find that the variance is of minor in nature, conditional on the condition by planning staff that the proposed development shall be constructed as illustrated on the elevation plans dated March 25th, 2022, and held on file by the Committee of Adjustment as it relates to the proposed materials. I don't believe there are any conditions besides that. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion, Mr. Komoric. Thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. You have your approval, sir. Okay, the next application was also deferred, 65 Silverstone Drive. So moving on to item 11, 136 MULOCK Avenue. It's an application to construct a partial 3rd-story addition above the existing dwelling. There are 3 variances. We have an applicant's submission presentation. We have a petition in support with around 12 signatures and opposition from someone with, I couldn't find an address, Daniel Sanchez, who I don't believe understood the application. In any event, we have 1 speaker, Duncan Patterson, the agent for the applicant.
Hello. Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. I am the agent representing the owner at 136 MULOCK Ave, Duncan Patterson. There are 3 minor variances requested, and I think it's pretty straightforward, but I'm happy to answer any questions the committee may have.
Yes, and I just did notice the letter of objection, I think it was from 146.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, 148. In any event, any questions for the agent or someone ready for a motion on this? 3 variances.
I'm ready for a recommendation. I'll move for approval. Variances requested are minor in nature and meet the 4 tests in the Planning Act. So that, yeah, no conditions on that.
Okay, thank you.
Andy Bellissimo seconds the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Patterson, you have your application has been approved. The next application is item number 12, 27 Portage Avenue. It's an application for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. We have Urban Forestry looking for condition 2. Transportation advises they're okay with the 3 variances proposed. That's all we have. And the agent for this application is Malwina Sternak, the owner of the property.
Good morning. I'm Malwina Sternak, the owner of 27 Portage Avenue. So I'm requesting 3 minor variances for the property. One is to increase the frontage by the square footage by 1.5%. Minor adjustment to the setbacks and as well as the width of the driveway.
And you're okay with the Urban Forestry? There's nothing
Yes.
else, no communication from city departments or area neighbors. So let's just see if members have any questions for you or if someone's ready for a motion.
Andy Bellissimo is ready to make a motion. I have looked over his plans and I find they're very minor in nature, very small little additions, and so I move for approval, subject to forestry condition.
Thank you. Second from Mr. Bellissimo's motion, Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Okay, you have unanimous approval. Enjoy, your application has been approved. That's subject to the appeal period. You're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 13 is number 8 MACLEOD Street. We have a revised agenda page for this one, showing changes that are highlighted. It's for a detached dwelling with an attached garage and an accessory structure being a shed in the rear yard. There were 4 variances, 3 have been revised. There are still 4. We have the revised waiver and plans, etc., and the applicant's revisions, and planning has weighed in with a report for information. And we have one speaker, Michaela Silva, the agent for the applicant. Ms. Silva with us.
She has been unmuted, so I'm not sure if it's a connection issue on her end. Hi, Michaela.
Okay, so we don't have her on the line, or very straightforward, but
yeah. Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, she is on the line. She's unmuted. Michaela, maybe if you try exiting out and rejoining either with the same method or via telephone, that might alleviate some of the issues because we're not able to hear you. I'm not sure if you can hear us.
okay, if not, perhaps we should stand it down like we did with Mr. Master Andre earlier and move on to item number 14. We're trying to make up time for our very late start today, so let's keep moving. Item number 14 is 6 Adeline Court. Again, we have a revised highlighted, which is always a good sign to see the changes are being made. So this matter is, again, for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There were 8 variances, now there are 7, and we have a revision to one of them. We have revised plans and zoning and survey and plans. We have a cover letter regarding the revisions, supplementary materials, and 3 letters of opposition from 2 and 8 Adeline and 31 Orpington Crescent. And registered to speak, we have the agent, Kaushik Suthar, as well as the neighbors from 8, 4, and 2 Adeline Court registered to speak on this matter. Urban Forestry, looking for condition 2. So let's turn it over to Kaushik Suthar to start off with a presentation, and perhaps we can get his supporting materials on the board up on the screen.
Good morning, Chair and the committee member. I am the Kaushik Suthar, representing the property owner, and I am here to asking the 7 variants. Some is related to the existing conditions and some are the existing, in which the 2 variants for the parking space and the height of the first floor above the established grade is on the existing conditions, because this is a split level house, so we convert the first floor and to match the existing upper level. And
sorry, if I can just interrupt for a second, because I see this is coming in showing as a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, but I take it you're using the existing foundation, or there's some.
Yeah, is the existing foundation, is existing split level house. We are keeping the existing foundation and the existing basement. So we are maintaining the new proposed floor to existing upper levels from. So that's why the height from upper floor from established grade is 1.58 meter, and it's belong to the existing conditions. So that's why we have the more asking the variance for the exterior wall height 7.52 meters, and also some of the soffit height belongs to the existing conditions, and existing parking space and existing driveway. So I think so all are in the minor in nature, and to maintain the existing conditions and to keep existing everything on the foundations, basement and everything, existing garage too. So I think so it's a minor in the nature. That's I.
Okay.
Okay. Once you see my presentation material, if it's side 1, I show the existing conditions on the from both sides, from slide 1 and another slide 2. Go to the next slide. And once you come to the slide number 3, go to the next slide. So now you see the existing conditions on the left side of the eyes, 1.58, right side 1.58 existing established grade. On the new porch is 1.58 meters, so it's existing condition, maintaining the existing upper levels, and that's why this is belong to the existing conditions to maintain and to build a 2-story nice custom home for their family requirement.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Suthar before we move on to hear from the neighbors who are here to speak? Okay, if not, let's hear from the neighbors. I guess the first, I'm going in order of the list I have in front of me. The first neighbor is the neighbor next door at number 8, Adeline Court. Zbigniew Lajewski.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My name is Zbigniew Blazejewski, and as I said, I'm at 8 Adeline Court. And the presenter was saying that everything is minor, everything is existing, and
we get his Mr. letter up on the court dated March 28th in our materials. Perhaps
yeah,
that up on the board as he's making his presentation.
Yeah. So right now, this is not existing. It's a completely new building, which is much bigger than anything that was there before. And the situation that the existing foundation is going to be used for building it is actually creating a big problem. So specifically, I'm talking about the point 2 of the zoning review waiver, which requests increase from 1.2 meter from for the first floor height from the established ground, and this increase would go to 157. And this is about 37 centimeters, about 30% more.
Just so the members can follow you, that's variance number 5 in our zoning notice. We go by committee.
Okay, so this is actually the height of the first.
You're talking about variance 5, correct?
Well, I guess it is. It's
Height of the first floor above established grade.
yeah, exactly. And I don't think it's a minor variance because it has a very important impact, because this actually allows this crawl space to be converted to semi-basement. And that is a huge change. It's a huge impact on the whole building and makes it so big, because this variance actually impacts on variance next, which is about the main walls. It is about the soffit. It's about the overall height of the building. So this is a major change, and I'm worried about this because it affects not only one house, but the entire neighborhood. This area has backsplit homes. It's a majority of buildings. And if this variance is considered minor, it's going to affect, in my opinion, every new construction. So it's going to set a precedent. And I think that it's going to have huge impact if all new buildings are going to use this as the same kind of precedent to build homes. So I think that this should go to review to city planning and assess the impact on the neighborhood, because this is a very serious change to whatever exists in the area. This house would be the biggest structure in the neighborhood, and it would affect all of items that other neighbors are complaining as well, which is the privacy issues, which is the crowding, which is the parking, like all those aspects. And as I said, it's going to make the building twice as height, and it's going to make like 3 habitable floors in the building, because this semi-basement has all windows above the ground. The first floor is actually has about 11 feet height, which is not a typical setup in our neighborhood. And then there's the third floor with windows on every side. So as I said, in my opinion, the biggest issue is how this increase of allowed first floor is I think it's not minor variance. It's a very important issue to consider and see how it's going to affect entire area. So that's my point. And I would like to make this for the record that I'm asking for this issue to be referred to the planning committee to assess impact on the whole neighborhood and how it's going to affect the density, the parking, the amount of traffic, etc., etc. And that's my point. And of course, there are some other issues which are connected to this, which is the lack of privacy. I have a specific issue because the proposed terrace or deck would be actually overlooking my property from distance 4 feet. There's a planned entrance to this terrace or deck, and it doesn't show up on the most recent drawings, but it was actually, I saw this on the first drawing which I got from the owner, which is actually included in the package that I sent with my objection letter. So I don't think that this building is a minor variation from whatever was before. It's a completely different building, much bigger, and the big concern for me is actually what happens when the crawl space is going to be converted to a semi-basement, not only in this building, but it's going to affect the entire neighborhood. So that's basically my point, and as I said, the lack of privacy is obviously going to affect everybody, because it's going to be the tallest structure in this whole area.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for the speaker before we move on? He is right next door. And again, just want to get your confirmation, sir. So we're talking about a very distinct area. I think one of the other neighbors pointed out in the letter number 2. We're going to be speaking as well as the neighbor at behind, who is not before us. that this is actually a very small court of 11 homes, correct?
Yes,
This is
and I think that most of, not all, like not probably not 10 out of 12 back splits, and actually I'm not sure about the other two because they may be a back split as well, but I didn't have a chance to
Position, just to
check that.
summarize, is because they're using existing foundation, it's pushing the whole house out of the ground, making it.
Well, I can understand that, but there are the solutions. If they, if like, no, as you know, they can select to use a different foundation. They can go deeper. They have lots of choices. But like now, I'm really concerned about this. What happens when this is going to be allowed? It's actually, as I said, it's going to be over 30% difference from whatever is in the plan to accommodate this change, which is going to really affect the entire neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, sir. So does anyone else have any questions? I'll just point out as well, you mentioned that you want this to be referred back to planning to consider the impact. That's not what happens. This is for us for a decision. The community planning has not weighed in on this application. They're given an opportunity. They do weigh in on some of our applications. So in that case, no one has any questions, further questions for the
I have a question for the presenter, if I may, Mr. Chair. I believe your concern, sir, is that you believe that this has to present as a 3-story rather than as a 2-story. Is that
Absolutely.
your concern?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I just want to
like, no,
clarify.
this is the nature of the back split. Like now, the for me, the usable space is actually like now it starts from the ground floor.
No, we get it. That's fine. I
Yeah.
just want to understand because that's what I'm getting from your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. So like now, from this house is all of a sudden becoming like a much bigger structure, 3 levels, 3 floors.
You have your, he has his answer. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Okay, so the next speaker is someone who is not written in to us with a letter, is Patrick McMullen, number 4, Adeline. So the neighbor on the other side. Mr. McMullen?
Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to speak. I apologize.
Can you were having a little trouble talking. You sound a little muffled. Are you talking on a speaker or can't hear you too well?
I'm on my phone, my phone. I wasn't prepared to speak at this time.
Okay, you don't have to. You don't have to. It's like your option. You're listed as on the attendance. So whether you want to just observe or speak is up to you. But you're right next door. Do you agree with the comments of Mr. Lajewski at number 8 on the other side, or are you okay with this application?
I prefer to pass at the moment.
Okay, fair enough. So you're here to observe. Okay, so in that case, the last speaker, he also says he's only observing as Mr. Luigi Carlucci, number 2, Adeline. Sorry, it says you're only observing, so no need to weigh in. In that case, let's go back to Mr. Suthar with basically his rebuttal to what the neighbor at number 8 had to say, as well as the 2 other letters of objection before us.
Thank you very much, neighbor, to asking the clarifications from that minor variance, because generally we are not asking any minor variance for the lot coverage, no gross floor area, overall building heights, and we are not asking any minor variance for front yard, side yard, rear yards. So we are within the zoning bylaws, and we have the problem with the overall building height. The planning department say reduce the building height, so we come with the reduce the overall building height, so we can do the 9.48 meter. And the neighbor has another issue like the 3-story. Once you see my front elevations, so it's always 2-story, and the planner has the comment regarding the step on the front porch. So we move the step behind some of the step behind the front porch. So from the front side, we can see only the 4 step. And house is actually 2-story house. It's a not 3-story. And we have the finished basement. The half of the basement is already finished, and whatever the new proposed basements which are converted from the crowd space is just a recreational area for the home theater game and everything. So I think so it's only the single family dwelling and it's 2-story house. And we are everything within the zoning bylaws. We are not asking any minor variance for gross floor area. So it's not big house. It's as per the zoning standards and zoning conditions.
Staff, can we get the notice on the board, the revised notice, please, as he's speaking? Thank you. Go ahead, sir. I just want to get the revised
And
notice
he's
on the board.
concerned about the first floor height 11 feet. It's not 11 feet. It's 10 feet plus 1 feet the floor joist. So from finish to finish is 11 feet. And regarding the exterior wall height is asking the talking about the main wall height. So my first floor is higher. So is the soffit height is little bit more as per the existing conditions. And also one more thing, he's asking regarding the privacy window. So we are not putting too much window. Every bedroom we have the one window or two small window. And we are comply with all the building codes and everything and the job, whatever this requirement as per the limiting distance and everything. So I think so all are the nature minor in the natures and to comply with the existing conditions and to make the new house. And we are the first to start the redevelop the house in this streets. So that's why they look is bigger house, but is within the zoning requirements. So that's my only the answer for him.
Thank you, sir. Any follow-up questions for the agent or someone ready for a motion? And I know there is a condition from Urban Forestry, condition number 2.
This one is a quick question, technical question. Sir, your floor plan in the basement shows the existing floor height is 7 foot 6 inches high.
Yes.
What is the proposed floor height? Is that the same?
Same height, to be maintained the same height.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, question for the presenter. There was talk about walkouts in this area. Does this house function as a walkout currently?
There is no walkout in this house, and we are not proposing any walkout.
So it's neighboring properties that function as walkouts, not this one. Is that right?
No.
Sorry, I said neighboring properties function as walkouts, not this one.
Not this one, yeah.
Yeah, not this one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions or is someone ready for a motion?
Ready for a motion. Looking at this as it's really a renovation, not a new build. So, you know, I had concerns with the first floor height, but it's the way it is right now, and then they're building on top of it. And so looking at it in that context, I saying the variances requested are minor in nature and meet the 4 tests in the Planning Act. So I'm ready to move for approval, subject to forestry condition number 2.
Thank you, Mr.
Someone seconds the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous approval. You have your application has been granted, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to the neighbors. Number 8.
Thank you.
Okay, did we find the agent yet, Michaela Silva, for item number 13 before we move on? Staff? 8 MACLEOD, number 13.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I have her now. Michaela, you've been unmuted.
Okay, Ms. Silva, I've introduced your application. Just a while back, we have a revised agenda page.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was disconnected somehow. I don't know what happened.
That's okay. It happened to me last meeting too, so I can understand. We're a detached dwelling with attached garage, accessory structure, shed in the rear yard. 4 variances, 3 have been revised. We can get your plan up on the board. And planning has given us a report for information. And we have your revisions, etc. Committee members, any questions for Ms. Silva? Or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Danny Bedesman was ready to weigh in on a motion if there are no further questions. I find the planning reports interesting because planning said this is a great improvement from the previous application. So I find the variances are minor in nature. I believe there's a condition number 1 from forestry. I think that's the only condition.
Yes. Appears to be.
I'm happy to second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Thank you, Ms. Silva. You have unanimous
Perfect,
approval.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Okay, our next item is item number 15, 223 Grenview Boulevard South. This is an interesting one, a two-story front addition, a two-story rear addition, a deck, and a rear yard. There are 4 variances. We have a previous decision from October 2021, same purpose. We have a cover letter. We have a copy of the as-of-right plan. Basically, it looks like we're increasing variances that were granted previously, or the request, from 39.5% coverage to 40, from 0.76 GFA to 0.8. Looks like community planning is, for whatever reason, not in favor. They want to have the applicant stick with their previously granted, to refuse then the request for additional lot coverage and additional floor space index. We'll hear from Mr. Romano, who's the agent for the applicant in this matter. And I guess my first question is whether the revised application can be built without variances 1 and 2, and why community planning is, in his estimation, is first of all, why this arose, and then why community planning is taking their hardline position. And I believe, Mr. Romano, you are the only speaker, so there doesn't appear to be any neighbors or anyone in opposition here, or any other community, other departments weighing in, including urban forestry. So having given that explanation, I'll turn it over to Mr. Romano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what happened here is the application was previously approved after revisions were made, and during the building permit process, the zone examination discovered that they did not include the garage as part of the gross floor area or the floor space index. And so what's happened is that a building permit has been issued with a carport. So basically the garage is unenclosed. So it doesn't have a door, and it's got one side that's open to it. The zone examination has then recalculated, just as PhD has, the architect, the lot coverage, and it's a 1.72 square meter difference. So 39.5% was previously approved, and 40% is what is shown with the closed garage. And the additional floor space, or GFA, the additional GFA is 12.41 square meters, which is just slightly less than the 14.6 square meter garage. So effectively, if you look at the second and third slides of my presentation, and I thank staff for bringing these up, you'll see that there is no difference between the site plan that was approved in October of 2021, and you'll see that in the blue box at the bottom of these slides, and what is before the panel today in slide 2 and 3, the top box. So you'll see that the building length, the building depth is all less than the zoning bylaw permits. The side yard setbacks are all existing conditions. There's the rear 2-story addition and the rear deck. And at the front, there is a front 2-story addition, because that is where the existing garage is. So you have the garage and then one level above. And on the next slide, slide 3, you'll see the building elevations. So there's absolutely no difference to what was before this panel and what was in front of the planning staff in October of 2021 and before this panel today. I will note that the planning report basically seems to follow the previous proposal, which had a covered porch. There is no covered porch. That was before the panel in October of 2021, because that was revised, and that is not what is in front of the panel today, and it does not form part of the building permit. And if you go to slide 4, you'll see the building permit drawings, or these are basically the elevations. So Correct. So you'll see the carport location, and that is where the garage location is. So we're basically looking to put a front door and close up the side. Otherwise, the building mass, height, scale is all actually smaller than what's next door. And you'll see that the roof height of 9.5 meters is to that central ridge with those side, and I'll call them side gables that swoop. So this is a building addition. It's very modest in nature. And I would ask that the panel kindly approve the application.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that lengthy explanation, merely or that was necessary due to this planning report, which really confused me when I went through it because it looks like it's an extra 0.5 coverage, a few extra feet from 0.76. And now when you tell me it's not even because someone before the ink was dry decided, oh, I want more, it's because of something that was missed. I guess it was missed by the architect, by yourself, and by community planning, which is surprising, but it was missed. So they're coming back. And to me, this report is then mean-spirited to state that planning staff are the opinion. Proposed FSI and lot coverage beyond what was previously approved are not minor, et cetera, and have negative impacts. And that they've contacted you to make revisions and you've declined to make revisions. So I would imagine you explain this issue of why it arose. So anyway, that's just my statement for the record that I don't even know why we needed this explanation. I'd like to know why community planning felt that this was over the top compared to what was approved in October. Okay, anyone else have any comments or questions, or is someone ready for a motion? I apologize for that rant.
Like to weigh in. Yes, I think that the application is very similar. I agree with the applicant that the height and massing, the impact on the neighbors is the same as it was before. These are clerical errors by not just the architect, but even the zoning examiner missed it. So I would like to move for approval of the variances. I don't think there are any conditions, and I don't support planning's statement here. So I would like to move them as presented on the notice.
Thank you, Mr. Bellissimo. A second for Mr. Bellissimo's motion.
I'll second it, but I want to make a comment. I think planning is concerned about going to the 0.4 coverage and setting a precedent, and I believe that's where they're coming from. But anyway, given the history, I would second that.
Yeah, that's what it was. Unfortunately, they just missed it. Okay, seconded by Mr. Palmer. Thank you. Or actually, you have your hand up. We already had a seconder. So, Mr. Palmer, do you want to make a comment?
No, I was just getting ready to vote.
Oh, okay. Thanks. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Romano.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, our next application is item number 16, 48 Cardigan Road, another revised application. We can get the agenda page showing the changes. It's a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There were 8 now. There still are 8 variances. 2 have been revised slightly. We have transportation conditions of approval. And in the additional materials, we have 11 letters of support. The only speaker on this application is Mr. Tony Diodati. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Tony Diodati. I am the agent and architect for this application at 48 Cardigan.
Okay. Very straightforward. I don't believe we need a presentation. We see the revisions you've made. You're okay with the transportation conditions?
I am, yes.
Okay, let's see if members have any questions or if someone's ready for a motion.
I'm happy to make that motion if no one has any questions.
Thank you.
I believe this application makes the.
Hold on. The applicant says they're okay with the conditions, but it's actually affecting one of their variances.
Transportation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it affects the driveway width, I believe.
Yes, I'm aware that the transportation is requesting that we reduce the driveway width to 4.547 meters, which we are happy to do so.
So are you amending your application to that?
I believe we will need to, yes, in order to gain approval.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm happy to make that motion for approval based on the revised variances, including the transportation condition of a reduced driveway width. I think that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. Seconder for that motion?
Danny Bellissimo.
Thank you, Danny. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you. Would members like a 10-minute break? We have 4 more matters we've sort of caught up. Would you like to take a 10-minute break? Okay, so we'll be back in 10 minutes then to resume at 12:15 the remainder of the morning agenda. Okay, welcome back. Looks like we don't quite have quorum yet. Okay, we're back. So the next application is item number 1721 Snowberry Avenue. It's an application to construct a one-story rear addition. There is only one variance, the coverage from 30% permitted to 33.6, an additional 20-odd square meters. The speaker for this application is Bruno D. Tommaso, the agent for the applicant. And we have before us the one variance, support letters from 23, 18, and 19, Snowberry, and supporting materials and our additional materials. So welcome to Bruno Di Tommaso.
Sorry, we don't have Mr. Di Tommaso on the line, but I will note that Mr. Di Tommaso did not pre-register. I have a new speaker that's not on my list, so I'm just going to unmute them.
Okay.
Hi, Armin? 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 Okay, Mr. Chair, maybe we'll move on to item 18. I'll give Mr. Di Tommaso a call.
Okay. Item number 18 is 124 Government
Road.
124 Government Road. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There is only one variance, the floor space index, which I find a little bit confusing, which I'd like staff to perhaps explain. Urban Forestry looking for condition 5. And Forestry looking for refusal. So I don't understand. We have 122 in opposition. We have registered to speak the agent Marin Zabzumi, as well as the neighbors from 122 and 126 on both sides, both adjacent, registered to speak. So just a bit of a confusion over this variance. So perhaps we can turn that over either to staff or to the applicant, Mr. Zabzumi, to explain.
What's your question, Mr. Chair?
It looks like the maximum floor space index is 0.5 permitted. I guess it's 1%. It says up maximum floor space.
Yeah, so there's two things. The gross area.
Yeah, the floor space index seems lower than what's permitted. That's my question.
Yeah, so there's two parts to the bylaw requirement. It's you're allowed this much up to a maximum of this in case, depending on the size of the lot. So they comply with the floor space index, but they need the variance for the gross floor area.
Oh, I see. It's all just covered in one line. So they're 1% over on the gross floor area. Am I correct, where it's supposed to 314.41 square meters permitted? They're at 322.69 square meters permitted. So basically they're a little over 8 meters over, 8 square meters over. Is that correct? Just put this in context, and that's before us. Is that correct?
That's what it looks like.
We have Urban Forestry looking for refusal, as well as opposition from next door, and this is for the detached dwelling. That's the only variance. So, okay, let's hear from Mr. Zabzuni.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Marin Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway.
Can you try to? I'm going to put up my volume, which I think is already pretty high. Can you try to speak a little louder, please?
Yes, can you hear better now?
Much better. Thank you,
Perfect.
sir. Okay, we'll get your application up on the board, whatever you need, your plans. We don't have a presentation here, so please go ahead.
Yes, so we're only applying for one variance. The house itself, the as of right footprint actually complies with all zoning bylaws. meaning building length, building width, and building height. We aim to kind of avoid variances as much as possible. So the clients are homeowners. They're trying to build a family there. They love the area. They want to be as respectful as possible to the area, to the variances. So I know it's only one small variance, but they need a more space on the second floor as they have young kids. We're not touching the footprint. That complies. It's only a little bit of square footage on the second floor. In this area, in this bylaw, even the garage counts as gross floor area. So unfortunately, that triggers this. This is why we're going to committee. Planning has no concerns. Homeowners have spoken to neighbors, including the ones that will come on after me to speak to this application, and they're making efforts to make this a smooth process for everyone. They're very kind people, and they want to get along with all their neighbors as they plan to build their family here, have their kids, get along with everyone, and etc. So in terms of forestry, we've already applied to urban forestry. We have no concerns meeting their conditions and requirements. We're moving forward a standard procedure. And I believe the variances are very minor in nature and certainly meet the 4 tests. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, any questions for the agent?
Just a brief question. Has construction started?
Yes, it has.
Was building permit issued?
Yes.
Okay, I couldn't find the record of the building permit online, but if you say it has, that's okay. Thank you.
It has, yes.
Yeah, because I guess that's something that the neighbors did out in their letter. Okay. So let's hear from the neighbors. Pay attention. You'll be asked to respond to what they have to say. We have 2 neighbors present. First of all, the neighbor, either Berute or Angele Luxenien, and then the neighbor at 126. So we have both adjacent neighbors registered to speak. We'll hear first from the neighbor from 122.
Hi there.
Perhaps we can get their letter up on the board while the neighbor's speaking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. My name is Berute Luxenite, and I am the next door neighbor to the east of 124 Government Road. So we have never personally met the applicants. They seem like a very nice family, and the drawings indicate that they're planning to build a nice house, but we're a little bit ambushed by this application. So first of all, to give you a bit of a history of our little area, our families have been there for over 40 years. Julia, who will speak after me, has been there for 45 years. The previous owners had owned the house that has just been torn down for 40 years. And they were so proud to tell the neighbors that the new owners will not tear down, that they will only renovate. Subsequently, by telephone, we spoke to the new owners who advised that they had actually not wanted to renovate, but they wanted to build a new house. But they said that they will build in such a way that a variance will not be required. So now we expected this. And so the construction started, well, the tear down started months ago, and the construction is well underway. The foundation is laid. And they never even posted a building permit on the front. We expected that is because they don't even need a building permit because they're within the bylaw requirements. So now, just 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago, we got notices of this variance hearing. We were completely surprised. I mean, they are already building a 5,000 plus square foot house. And the reason why they're allowed to build such a big house, is because of the unique size of our lots. They have a 177-foot deep lot, as we do as well. But rest assured that this house that they're building is a colossal house in the standards of our little area. Now, we were in touch with the builder, the new owners, because we wanted to let them know that our area is prone to severe, scary flooding. And I submitted a written submission enclosing some photos. And if I could share my screen, perhaps I could show a little video of what happens in our area when it rains and we have water coming in from north of us from all the paved lots on Dundas. We are so flooded, we cannot walk in the backyard. I mean, we're afraid it's gonna become a sinkhole. It is scary. Those pictures are like from a horror movie. We advised the new owners of this concern to also make them aware of this problem so that they could take that into consideration when making their building plans. And they advised us that they did. But now, with respect to this variance request, yes, the 1% does sound very minor, but when you take into consideration the actual size of the addition, that's going to be an extra almost 90 square feet of space that will require an additional 90 square foot roof that will contribute to more rainwater catching and runoff. And to the east of them, where we are on the drawings, we see 3 rain downspouts directed directly on our lot. So can you imagine what that's going to do to us? We're going to get even more flooding. So my mother, Angela, is elderly and she does not want to move because of this increasing problem. She doesn't want an additional flooding of her property. And also she doesn't have money to rebuild her house like these new owners are doing. So her concern and my concern is to please consider whether this requested variance is really in line and appropriate for the development of our particular site, and is it really within the official plan? Because the official plan aims to protect owners and of all ages and their financial situations, to permit them to enjoy their homes, and also to consider the fact that, you know, she's been there more than 40 years. While the new owners, although they have beautiful intentions in mind for their family, what they're doing will affect the next door neighbors more severely than they will get to additionally enjoy their property. Now, in addition to this proposal, we're very concerned that they've been proceeding with this build without having confirmation of this variance. So I want to understand what they have in place that is confirmed and what all of a sudden they need to do that requires a variance. Okay, because if they're proceeding without a proper building permit, then they're acting as if they're above the law. And another thing that they're doing that shows that they in fact are acting above the law is that they breached our property line and erected their construction fence, which ought to be on their perimeter on our property, blocking our access to our side yard, our lawful property. And we have notified them and asked them to move it, and they are refusing to move it. Even yesterday, they said that they will not move this construction fence. This is unacceptable, and I am questioning the intentions of these owners.
Ma'am, I read in your letter about that they're walking on your property, resting construction. It's the last paragraph of your letter. It's very clear. That is, you say you've notified the building department. That's where your recourse. We only deal with planning issues. So although I realize this is very upsetting to you, it's something that we cannot deal with.
Okay, I understand that.
So let's hear from your planning concerns and what we want to hear.
Yeah, so deeper into our lot, they have also breached the property line and disturbed our existing fence foundation. On that fence, we have a green vine growing that have historically offered us privacy in the summer, which we use our backyard in the summer to enjoy the sun. And now that has been disturbed and we have lost most likely this green fence that will provide us privacy. The plans show that the new owners are building a large deck that will extend that part of the backyard that we use in the summer, because the back of the backyard, due to the flooding, remains unusable even during the dry season, and we will have lost our privacy. Is there anything that planning can do to review these plans from the perspective of the plans for the deck, and maybe require a replacement green fence to be erected or something to allow us to continue to enjoy our privacy. I assure you, I am convinced that we will lose access to sunlight and other benefits that we used to enjoy by virtue of owning our property. These are all concerns that my mother and I share. And Julia, our next door, the next door neighbor at 126, also shares. But these...
So a good segue. We're going to be hearing from her now. You're you're over on your time allotted.
Okay.
Almost a minute. So if you'd like to please just wrap up, and we'll hear from your neighbor as well. And the applicant will answer will respond to the points you raised.
I'll let Julia speak.
Okay.
They can see
me. They can't see you, but they can hear you.
Good. Hello.
Okay. Oh, so Julia's with you, right? You're at the same. You're on the same phone. You're saving. You're together. So let's hear from Julia now. Julia, please. Oh, before we hear from Julia, let's first see if any of the members have any questions for you.
I'm at 126, right? I'm elderly,
Right.
even though I don't want to
Just
admit.
hang on a second. Julia, hold on, please. Does anyone have any questions for Baruti at number 122?
Just a quick question. Those images that were actually kind of horrifying of the backyard condition, were they taken recently or was that last spring?
Some of them were recent, but they're actually gradually getting worse. And the city knows about them. I had reached out to the city to see if they could assist with that, to review what's happening on the north side of us. You see, there are no drains on the commercial property to the north of us. And so they pile all their rainwater is directed towards us. And so this condition is getting worse because north of us on Dundas, they paved an even larger area due to the new high rises that went up just in the recent year or past 2 years. So this condition is actually getting worse. It may not even reflect to the full extent the horrific condition of these properties, including 124s.
Okay, and this is occasioned, as you said, from the properties on Dundas that are commercial properties that are paved and likely don't have sufficient, if any, drainage on their properties. I've seen situations like that where and all the water, I guess maybe on the slope, is coming from the north into the backyards of the government road properties on the even numbered municipal addresses of those pretty long lots. Okay, so let's hear from, and that's where the water is coming from. You said that's where what's not coming from the neighbor, it's coming from the other side.
We've consulted informally with a water expert, and that was said that this is definitely one of some writing, but it's the result of what we have.
Okay, so thank you. You were cutting out a little bit there, but I think we got the gist of what you had to say in response to Ms. Alderson. Your question has been addressed. You're satisfied. We can move on. Okay. No other questions at this point for Baruti? 122. So we'll go to 126 to Julia Lyons at 126
Yes.
Government.
Hi, I'm elderly too, so I've lived there for 45 years. So I'm worried about the size of this house, losing my son, my privacy. We didn't get this letter in the mail till the 22nd of March about the variant. They had already poured the foundation. So isn't that against the law to do something like that when you don't even have approval? That's all I'm wondering about. And what else they've done that's not right? I don't feel that they're respecting the neighbor. Oh, and there's a huge tree, a maple tree in my back garden. And I don't know if the roots will, it's huge. So they're going very far back in their garden. And I don't know if the roots will be disturbed from that tree underneath. The huge deck that's going to be built. And I just feel like It's encroaching on my garden, and the impact of my enjoyment of my garden's just going to be gone. They've broken the fence at the front and the back of my garden, and there was a huge hole there. And this is a massive crater that they've made because they're getting 10-foot ceilings in their basement, and my dog could have fallen through that. Then they could have had a lawsuit. So I just feel that they're not respecting the neighbors.
Thank you, ma'am.
I apologize. I just wanted to say I wanted to mention that yes, we're also very concerned.
Is that I just want to know who's speaking. Is that Baruti again?
Yes, it is. I apologize.
Okay.
I'm concerned about.
You're saying we can't let you do this because you're on the same line. Sorry, you went over your 5 minutes. Someone asked you a question, but I can't hear any more from you after we've already ended your submission. Sorry. So I just point out you're all talking about an applicant should have, and if he hasn't, again, it's not a planning matter, but if he's proceeding with his construction, he should have his building permit visible from the street. What he likely has in terms of disrespect for the neighbors is, I assume he's proceeding with what he has permission for as a right. As you know, there is only one small variance of 1%. So perhaps he's proceeding without that 1%, but he should have posted the building permit in front of the property. So we'll have Mr. Zubzumi respond. That's just what I wanted to say.
He didn't have. Can I say? No.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
Can I talk?
You're just about to say something about the sign being posted, the building permit sign. There's no building permit sign on the property. We'll hear from Mr. Zubzumi. Okay, thank you, Mr. Zubzumi. If you could please respond to the concerns of the neighbors. Although before I do that, let's see if members have any questions for the last speaker, Ms. Lyons.
Sure.
I actually do have a question since they were about to say something. I just have a question of Ms. Lyons. Was the building permit posted at the front of their building?
Not until I called on, I think the 22nd. I called 311 and complained that there was no permit up. And the next day it was up.
Okay, thank you.
It's been up, so the permit is now up. The building permit is now up. I also assume they had a notice about this committee of adjustment hearing as well. So it should have been a building permit or a series of building permits, and then the application before the committee. So anyway, let's go back then to Mr. Zubzumi to respond to the neighbors.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Before we go back to Mr. Zubzumi, we also have Angel on the line.
We already heard from Baruti, Luke Senat, and now we also have Angeli Luxinen, but they're both from the same address, correct?
Correct. It's James Bonus as agent for Ms. Luxinen. You know, I'm a little dismayed.
Hold on a second. You're an agent for they just spoke for 6 minutes. So I don't know what's going on here, but I don't have anyone on my attendance sheet that I was sent this morning by staff. So I don't understand. Can I hear from Secretary Treasurer to make a ruling on this matter? We have now an agent acting on behalf of 122 after they've spoken.
No, if it's either or, if they've hired someone to represent them, then that person should have spoken, not the person that they.
I agree. So they did not.
It was my understanding.
So they can't speak. Okay, so let's move on to Mr. Zubzumi then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I've heard the neighbors' concerns and I'm happy to address them. Starting with building permits have with 100% certainty been issued and they're posted on the fence, as was the committee sign posting, as we sent a photo of that as required prior to the hearing. In regards to some of their concerns in terms of flooding, yes, there is concerns of flooding due to the commercial properties that affects both our client and the neighbors. It's unfortunate, and we have worked with the surveyor when working through the grading plan to improve this situation as much as possible. The grading plan is approved by a building department, so we are meeting those requirements. As for the variances and the construction, as I said before, the building envelope complies with zoning. The foundations, the basement plan, the first floor plan, there is no change between the building permit and the committee of adjustment drawings in terms of width, length, and height. We're just asking for additional, very minor square footage on the second floor. This house is nowhere close to 5,000 square feet. I can assure you that if that was, you'd see it on the variance. It's less than 3,500 square feet, actually. And we believe it's well within other existing built forms in the area. Most properties that have gone through committee have applied for a lot more variances. Ours is very minor. And then speaking with the homeowners and the clients of this property, I've worked with them with nearly 2 years, and I can assure you they're very kind people, very good, generous, well-meaning people. They do want to get along with everyone, and they have made efforts. They're not in the city right now. That's the reason that they have communicated through phone calls and emails. They will visit soon in Toronto to check up on everything and speak with the neighbors again. They've made several attempts to reason with them. And I believe this application is very minor in nature and does meet the 4 tests. And I hope that in the end, these neighbors can get along with each other so that, they can build a good working relationship and be friendly neighbors. That's the goal that any neighbor should have. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer, but the building envelope is not asking for a variance. It's only the gross floor area.
Yeah, I understand. So it looks very minor, but unfortunately your client, perhaps you're not involved, has inflamed the neighbors by their attitude and by, what about you didn't address, I know it's not a planning issue, and I try to tell them that, but people are people. People are, it says they blocked access to our side yard on the west side where we have a gas meter and a gate. The builders have fenced off our side yard for their sole access and construction purposes. They're walking on our property, resting construction materials and equipment against our garage wall. Please see attached photos, et cetera, et cetera. So the question is, if this is true, you're right, it's not a planning concern, but that's what's upsetting and inflaming the neighbors. So perhaps if they're out of the country, you or someone on their behalf should be, it says this fence was supposed to be taken down. Again, we've heard nothing. And again, it's not a planning issue, but come on. Let's have some consideration for the neighbors who, aside from having a big house, which they may not understand is a very minor variance, but now they're dealing with all this construction stuff. So let's try to someone, you're an experienced agent here. You're not here the first time. So
absolutely.
Thank you. Members, any questions for either Mr. Zabzumi or the 2 neighbors? And again, I apologize for not allowing the neighbors agent to speak after she had spoken for over 6 minutes.
Anybody listening would like to have questions?
Go ahead, please.
The applicant, being an architect, I'm kind of confused about, you got a permit, but you said it's extra gross floor area, it's on the second floor. Does that impact in the first floor with the issue of drainage and so on? But can you explain how you've gone to this point? I'm confused and your drawings don't seem to indicate that to me.
Yes, the second floor for the building permit was actually smaller than the envelope, than the footprint. So now it's meeting more of that footprint, which complies with the zoning bylaw. It's just triggering the gross floor area.
Okay, so what I'm understanding is the first floor is not impacted by this. It's the second floor because it was smaller in the building permit. You're increasing the size of the second floor, but you didn't indicate that on the drawing, but that's fine. So I understand now. So there's no impact on the footprint on the ground. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Komarek?
Just a question with regards to trees. Has there been consultation with urban forestry? Have you done I don't recall if it was an arborist report on this site or not.
We have an arborist report and we have submitted to urban forestry, and there is correspondence. We're still waiting to hear back. They're pretty busy, but we're working with them.
Well, at this point, they're recommending refusal, so I'm just trying to understand the basis for that.
I think it's the basis is for the front city tree. I'm not sure if they need more time to review, but they want to make sure that that city tree does not get removed. So I think that's where they stand. But again, we're working with them to make sure whatever requests.
They haven't indicated any concerns about the neighbors' trees or impact on the root system.
No, I don't think we have any concerns with the neighbor's trees itself. The house is within the setbacks and the tree protection zone, as indicated on the arborist report.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Danny Belisma is ready to make for a motion if there's no further questions.
Answer.
Thank you. I find even with the tree, I mean, they've got a permit, the ground is not being impacted. It's the second floor addition, basically, it's impacting this. And I think that maybe the problem wasn't clarified to the neighbors. I would have liked that the owner or the applicant would have talked to the neighbors and explained that you have a permit, just a second floor addition, that's the issue. And so from a gross floor area point of view and the zoning point of view, I found that the variances are minor in nature and move for approval subject to conditions by forestry. Or sorry, is that there's no is it the refusal?
There is a condition.
There's no condition by forestry. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Usually with a refusal from forestry, they have a fallback position of wanting one or two of their conditions. We don't have that here.
Yeah, there is. The fallback, I believe, is forestry condition 1.
It is there? Okay. Then I would add that to my.
Or I'll second that with that amendment.
Moved, seconded, revised, seconded. All in favor? Unanimous approval? We got unanimous approval. Thank you to the neighbors and thank you to Mr. Zabzumi for explaining the situation. And hopefully the relations dealing with construction, Mr. Zabzumi can look into that on the neighbors' behalf.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next application is item number 20, as 19 has been deferred, is 5 7th Street. We have a revised notice with revised plans, etc. It's to construct a new detached dwelling with attached garage. The only change on this revision is they've taken a third of a meter off of the height variance. Otherwise, it's the same. This is we do have here, we have an arborist report. So we have a previous decision. This matter was before the committee or another application from the same applicant back some months ago. Just trying to find the date of that. Or November 30th, 2021. So we have the previous minutes. That application was refused. We do have the speakers on this application, Luca Penzo, the agent, as well as neighbors from 39, 41, and 37 Emerald Crescent. And we want to hear from the agent how this application differs from the previous application. We have 5 letters of support, 10 letters of opposition, supporting materials, which we can get on the board, and planning is recommending refusal of the application. So first party up is Luca Penzo, the agent for the applicant. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'm here. Would you guys be able to pull up my supporting material? I have a presentation that I submitted. I just want you guys to be able to see it as I go through everything.
Yeah, let's get that up on there. And please, as you go through, just explain, show us how this is different from the application was refused several months ago by the same committee.
Yep, I'm the same designer and agent representing the owners at 5 7th Street. We previously presented to the committee on November 30th, 2021. And since then, we've worked with city planning on numerous revisions to reduce the size and massing of our proposal. We have taken the committee's and the neighbors' comments into strong consideration to be further aligned with neighboring development and address concerns. City planning was extremely helpful and supportive throughout our process and was happy with where we landed, even though they could not give their full support, mainly due to the proposed 3rd floor, which is a common minor variance that has been approved by the committee in this neighborhood in conjunction with much larger other variances than the ones we are proposing. This first slide here that you see illustrates the proposed property outlined in red on the left, and you can see a very similar built development 2 doors over at 1 7th Street on the right. If you could just go to slide 2 now as well. Scroll down. This slide outlines our previous proposal compared to our current proposal today and highlights some of the changes that we've made to the design. In our new design, there is a decrease in the overall floor space index of the home of 17%, a 45% decrease in the size of the 3rd story, The third story is now set back from the front of the house to look like other homes in the community. The third story length as a result was reduced by 23 feet, a 45% reduction, which will allow for greater shared sun exposure. We shortened the overall length of the home as well by 3 feet. We reduced the dimensions of the balcony on the third floor, supporting privacy concerns and city planning. We reduced the balcony in the front of the home to meet bylaw requirements, eliminating the variance completely. And we reduced the height of the home by 1 foot as per the previous committee member comments. If you could just also go to slide 3 now. I will speak to each variance individually now and just explain our rationale why each variance should be considered minor and within the means of common development and approved minor variances for the neighborhood. Variance number 1 on our zoning notice speaks to the height and number of stories. Our proposed height of 10.03 meters and 3 stories. The height is largely due to having a third story, and these work hand in hand as we've seen with a very large number of approved and built homes in the neighborhood. Just recently, a 4-story residential home was approved at 90 Lakeshore Drive. Our request is the lowest in height relative to all flat roof variances approved, 11% lower than the highest one approved at 90 Lakeshore Drive. The map on this slide illustrates 3-story houses over 10 meters approved within the last few years that set a very good precedence for our proposal, as we are trying to keep it consistent with the character of neighborhood development. Photo examples are to follow on the next slide. You can go to slide 4. This is the previously referenced 90 Lakeshore Drive, which is a home currently under construction, approved by the committee for 4 stories and a flat roof height of 11.61 meters. Just next slide, number 5. This slide illustrates more properties on the previous map of houses that are 3 stories and over 10 meters in height, which are all taller than our request at 57th Street, including 102 Lakeshore Drive, which has an approved flat roof height of 10.6 meters. Go to the next slide. On this slide, we have 5 examples of flat roof heights that are taller than our request at 57th Street, including 82 Lakeshore Drive, which is only 4 doors away from the subject property, approved for a flat roof height of 10.47 meters, and 17th Street, which is just 2 doors away from the subject property, approved for 10.62 meters. Next slide, please. On this slide, we have another 9 examples of 3-story homes with heights over 10 meters. If you go to the next slide now, slide 8. On this slide, we have another example that was recently approved as 3-story houses, and they're also currently under construction. Go to slide 9. On the right of this slide is an as-of-right box illustrated in red to demonstrate how long the house would be if we maximized the allowable 17-meter building depth. The house would be 2.5 meters greater in length. I'd like to note that 82 Lakeshore Drive was approved for a 3rd story with a greater flat roof height, a greater FSI, and its building length was approved for a variance of 19.17 meters. Our design complies with all setback requirements and is well within the requirements for building length. We have also recessed the 3rd floor space from the front wall by 3.85 meters and from the rear wall by 2.53 meters to be less impactful from an aesthetic, shading, and privacy perspective. The home now presents more like a 2-story, similar to the other homes approved and built on the previous slides. Slide 10, please.
Sorry, before we move on, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to advise that we're at 5 minutes and 40 seconds.
Okay, if you can try to wrap up, sir. I know that you're going through this. We do have 3
I'll try to
neighbors.
go through quickly.
No, your 3 neighbors are going to take a total of 15 if they wish to speak. So just try to wrap. I think it's important to just.
Yeah, I'll be within 10 minutes.
It's a good presentation. Thank you.
So slide 10 here, this addresses variance number 2 and speaks to floor space index. We have a proposed floor space index of 0.77 meters. This is not an excessive ask, and much larger densities have been approved and built. Of the 7 recently approved minor variances for FSI, our request is the lowest at 0.77, 27% lower than the highest approved at 11 5th Street, which was approved for an FSI of 1.06. Just 4 doors away is another relevant example, 82 Lakeshore Drive, which was approved for an FSI of 0.87. In our previous application, we were applying for a density of 0.91, and we have worked with planning to reduce our overall density by 17%. We feel that we're now aligned with recent development, and our FSI should be deemed an acceptable minor variance since it is of the lowest that would be approved. We reduced the overall length of the house by 3 feet.
Guys, I think you're going to have to, we have the rest of your presentation, so the members, and perhaps you can refer to your materials when you're rebutting the comments from the neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Provided it's in keeping with their rebuttal and non-new information, but you've spoken. We do have this presentation, which the members have had available.
Yeah, if everybody could just go through.
So thank you for walking through how it's different than the one it was refused several months ago by the same committee. Okay, so any questions then for Mr. Penza before we go on to hear from the opposition?
I just have one point of clarification. The height variance between number 1 7th Street and 5 7th Street, can you tell me what that is again? Is there a height variance?
Yes, I will go, I'll tell you what that is. 1 7th Street. Sorry, let me just look back. 1 7th Street was approved for 10.62, and we're asking for 10.03.
Okay, thank you. So that's an existing condition on number 1 7th Street. Okay,
yeah, it's already built. It was approved and built. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the agent, or let's hear from the neighbors and he'll have a chance to respond. Looks like we have the same neighbors that spoke back in November. Again, we've heard from the applicant as how this application is different. So we'll hear from the neighbors. We have first speaker is 39 Emerald, Ray Orsava.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, the neighbors from 39 Emerald had reached out and said they will not be participating. They'll receive a copy of the decision, but we have Wanda from 41 Emerald, so maybe we'll go to Wanda next.
So in the future, if someone is telling me they're not, maybe you can just do it in advance. Yeah, so then we have Wanda Allen from 41, and then we have Maria Chiravati from 37.
Hello, Chairman and committee members. This is Wanda Allen. I'm from 41 Emerald Crescent, the owner. I'm directly north from 5 7th Street, the proposed new 3-story house.
Right, so this is a key lot situation where there's 3 key lots or 4 key lots adjacent to the length of number 5 along Emerald Crescent, and you're the first one on the corner.
Correct.
Okay,
so,
let's hear what your concerns are.
Yeah, so to start with, I appreciate the owner applicant attempt to revise the drawings, but it doesn't nearly go as far as it should. We're still going to be looking at privacy issues, shading issues, looking at staring at a huge brick wall or whatever material they use for cladding. We're not going to enjoy our backyards. Our gardens aren't going to be as usable. They're adding windows, balconies. The privacy issue is going to be immense. And like I said in my previous comments, just going around snapping pictures of houses that are 2 and 3 stories is not justification. Most of us have lived here forever. If we bought this house, we looked around, we said, okay, we like the height of the houses, we like our privacy, we like the green space. We just feel as though all of a sudden we're fighting for something that we had chosen years ago. And we're not adverse to, I can't speak for the neighbors, so let me change that. I'm not adverse to, people enjoying their properties, but not at the detriment of the rest of us. We feel as though we're just not going to be able to live the way we normally would have lived had this 3-story monstrous house not been proposed. We have issues here already with neighbors who haven't spoken up yet, saying they don't like the houses. They got approved. I can give you an example. One of my neighbors, I'm going to keep them anonymous. The wife, they're elderly couple. They live very close. The wife has given up gardening. The husband is always talking to the neighbors about how it's impacted him negatively. It just breaks my heart to see how giving this one individual a 3-story massive house, that our lots are tiny in Toronto. Everybody knows that. This is Toronto. This is the city. If people want to build large houses, there is land available. Their neighbors will have the same size houses. It'll all be conducive to the neighborhood. These are little residential pockets with, somebody made a comment in one of their letters, so that families can move in. These aren't chicken coops. Families actually lived here and they'll continue to live here, and they're an asset to the community. So without going over, some of the things I've written, other people have written, I really, really wish that you would deny this application for myself and for my neighbors and for my community. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Allen, as well. We have your letter. I'll point out to members, the party that were not on the line registered to speak at 39. We do have a letter from them. And they do point out that, again, that the key lot situation here is affecting, several neighbors to the north rather than the normal lot configuration because of the key lot that stands in respect to those properties. So any questions for Ms. Allen? Or before we move on to the next speaker, who's Maria Cervati at 37, also one of those key lots. Okay, so let's hear from Ms. Cervati. Welcome back.
Okay, my name is Dave Cervati, and I'm speaking on behalf of my wife and myself.
Okay,
and,
welcome.
Good afternoon to all.
Okay, the change is noted that she's the speaker. You're not the speaker. You're speaking and she's not. So
That's
please
correct.
let us know what your concerns. I believe we have a letter of opposition from you as well. And I believe your wife did speak the last time. So go ahead, sir.
No, I did speak the last time, but I'm going to continue with that today. But thank you.
So I guess the question is, we've heard from the applicant. He's made changes. Come back with a fresh application. So let us know why you feel that it's still not worthy of approval.
Okay, one, I just want to mention that Ray and Tina that live at number 39 asked me to mention that they wanted to speak desperately, but unfortunately both of them have jobs that meant they could not take time off, and they're awfully disappointed. But as you mentioned, you have their letter and also pictures with regards to sunlight and viewing from their backyard. So
sure.
I would like the committee to keep that in mind.
Yeah, while you're speaking, let me have staff, that's opposition letter number 2 with the pictures attached to it. We can perhaps get that scrolling while Mr. Cervati. And you're right, you did speak last time, not your wife, I checked. So please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Again, my wife and I have lived here at 37 Emerald for the last 43 years. We raised our family here and now have been blessed with 7 grandchildren who love our backyard and the feeling of openness and warmth, especially on sunny days, and that is winter and summer all year round. That proposal that's up in front of us will take that feeling away, both physically because of the height and emotionally and psychologically as well, to not only our family but the other neighbors' properties north and east of that proposal. The properties that are going to be affected most of all are going to be the properties north, and we speak about 4 different properties, as you mentioned before. The sunlight is going to be cut off immensely, and I think the pictures that Tina and Ray sent in would indicate that and would give you a better perspective. All the buildings that were mentioned by the speaker before in the area that have been approved may not have had any of those concerns. And so therefore, what we're talking about is this particular building and the concerns about the shade and the lack of sunlight that's going to be in our particular area, especially with the 4 houses that are north of the proposed building. I have in front of me the staff report from the Committee of Adjustment application letter, and they recommend that this application be refused for many reasons. It's an overdevelopment of the lot. It's not in keeping with the characteristics of the neighborhood under the official plan. The variances requested are not in line with zoning bylaws, examples being the building height, the flat roof height, the number of stories, and the mass of floor space. This is not in keeping or respecting the official plan or the zoning bylaws. The impact on ourselves, as mentioned before, with regards to sunlight, the natural light that comes into our house all year round, backyard activities, the privacy of decks that are well over the maximum allowed is not in keeping with the character, and the overbuilding is going to be setting a precedent in our neighborhood. Just briefly, Mr. Dutka sent a letter to the neighbors, as was mentioned, that he was working with the City Planning Committee and we should be happy with the minor adjustments, and he apologized for not involving us. What he left out was the staff recommended that the application be refused, but he refused to make any further revisions. My neighbor and I met with Mr. Dutka and his father during last summer. He stated he was single and would be putting a small addition on while renting the house for 6 months. This, by no means, is any small addition, and it affects so many of us negatively. A couple of things that I wanted to point out when the house, or if the house is going to be built. The air conditioning unit appears to be on the side of the properties that are going to be most affected. The noise from that particular air conditioning unit is going to affect 4 different properties. The third floor proposal, I have a question about. The maximum roof deck that's allowed is 4 square meters. He wants to put 10 square meters in. And then beside that platform is something called not usable space. I don't know what that means, and if it's not usable space, why is there a door leading out to it? For all these reasons, and I'm not quite sure whether anybody can answer that at this particular time. Are we still with you?
Yep.
Can anyone answer that question?
Yeah,
or is that something that comes up a little later?
Responds to your concerns. It's not a back and forth, so he'll respond if he's taking notes on what you have to say.
Okay, because of all these reasons.
The issue off the balcony. Right?
Yes. So because of all these reasons that I pointed out, and also the staff report from the Committee of Adjustment, the way it's going to affect not only ourselves, but all the neighbors that I've mentioned already, I feel that it should be turned down. And if Mr. Dutka says what he believes, then he should be contacting us, and hopefully we can come to some resolution that would make him happy, because we don't want to take away from anyone coming into the neighborhood, but we also want him to respect our points of view as well and our well-being.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for Dave Chervati? If not, we'll go back to Mr. Penzo for his rebuttal. Just a question for staff. Is this an area within the Long Branch Neighborhood Association?
No, it isn't.
Area of, okay, I didn't think so, because I see they didn't weigh in on the last application as well. Okay, let's go back then. Is anyone in questions for Mr. Chervati or no? So if not, let's go back to Mr. Penzo. Please respond to the issue about I see you have an oversized 3rd floor platform. 10 square meters, there's 4 is permitted, but there was a question about whether there's some inaccessible area in excess of that. That's still part of the plan.
So I just want to clarify that there is no door there. If you look at the floor plan view as well, it's not a door. There's no swing to it. It's not a sliding door. That was something zoning asked, just to put that it's not usable space as a note. Those are windows, floor to ceiling windows there, not a door.
So this is the one we're looking at the front of the house on the plan.
On the rear of the house.
The rear. Okay.
So you'll see where the platform is, 10 square meters. And then to the left on the
other
floor
side, sort of to the left.
Not usable space on the left. Yeah.
It's not usable now, but it looks like there is a sliding door there, not a window. But
no, there is no sliding door. They're windows.
I see. Okay.
They're fixed units.
Okay, so the floor is yours to respond to the concerns of the neighbors, and I guess to also counter what community planning had to say.
Yeah, we did do an impact analysis as well for the neighbors, and we submitted that as supporting material. I'm not sure if you're able to pull that up as well now or not, if you could.
Perhaps staff can get that on your That's the supporting material in our bookmark.
Yeah. Yeah, so part of our process, we did just do an impact analysis, taking all the opposition into consideration, just to ensure that there's minimal impact to their standard of living, and also achieving the majority of the goals for all the new residents. The main opposition issues were height and privacy, sunlight, soft landscaping, and that the variances are not minor, and this home will change the overall look and feel of the community. There's another piece of supporting material, that's the impact analysis. It was submitted a couple of days ago. If you could pull that up. So
that's, I guess, in his additional materials package,
Yeah,
the supporting material that came
exactly. Yeah, so if you go to slide 2 here, just to address the height of the home was reduced by 0.3 meters from the original application, and the proposed home was the lowest in all relative flat roof variances that were identified and recently approved. And if you go up to slide 2, just because I want to talk to the photo that's on slide 2. 17th Street and 82 Lakeshore Drive directly to the north are the properties that I previously mentioned, approved for heights of 10.62 and 10.47 meters respectively. Both of these heights are higher than our proposed height at 57th Street of 10.03 meters. 37th Street, which is the home directly to the north, has submitted a letter of support for the proposed home. To address privacy concerns, our proposal actually has no windows facing north in the living spaces. The only north-facing window, which is where the opposition is on the 2nd floor landing in the hallway. And the 3rd floor as well. The platform is on the south side, not the north side, and we've also put up glass privacy screens. If you could go to the next slide to address sun exposure. We've completed a shadow study. It was included with our previous, with the original presentation. It was up there for a second for you to see a few minutes ago. The opposition letter from 39 Emerald Crescent that had the photo markup, it was strategically done. The markup that they did over the picture is not to scale of the home that we are proposing. 57th Street, actually it faces west, and the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, as everyone knows. And midday, the sun is directly over the homes. The proposed home will not cause shadowing to the north. I've included a photo here taken on Saturday at 4:45 just to illustrate that the sun is actually directly on the front of the homes on Emerald Crescent. Most of the shade the home produces in the morning hours will be in the morning hours as the sun shines toward the west. Thus, 57th Street will be casting a shadow towards the front yard and the road, not the neighboring properties. You could go to the next slide now, slide 4. Just to address concerns around soft landscaping, we provided our land survey with tree sizes, landscape calculations, everything was submitted and reviewed. We considered all the neighboring concerns. However, we believe there's nothing to really address committee with since there's no related variances. I do also want to note that we approached all the neighbors with a letter over a month ago with our phone numbers, and not one of these opposing neighbors actually reached out to us to discuss and meet. So if you could go to slide 5. One of the letters of the
Sorry, just before we get to slide 5, I just want to advise that you're at about 5 minutes and 30 seconds just for information.
Okay, this is the last slide, if I could just wrap up. One of the letters states that 3-story homes with back extensions and rooftop decks have been approved and built close by and have begun to change the traditional feel of the neighborhood, with many of the other opposition letters making very similar comments. The majority of the developments happening around the city and evidently in this Etobicoke Lakeshore community are very in line with our request. Densities are increasing and approvals beyond the zoning bylaws have become very common. The proposed home at 57th Street is well within the recent minor variances approved and the character of the neighborhood. We made it a point to be amongst the lowest relative to those who set precedents for any of the variances we are requesting approval for. We've had a collaborative relationship with neighbors and city planning to address any potential concerns. Since our last application, we greatly reduced the size and massing of the proposal. This resulted in a reduction of our variances.
You're going through materials now, so I'm going to cut you off now because you're responding to the concerns in this case. So I appreciate the sum up. Let's just see if anyone has any questions.
Thank you for your time, and I'll answer any questions.
I think you've made your point across. So, members, any further questions either for Mr. Penzo or any of the neighbors?
Danny Bellissimo has some questions. Sir, this application was before us before. You have much time to prepare a second application, as you indicated. This impact analysis and other studies that you presented today, did you go through all that with planning before they wrote their report?
No.
Okay,
the
so
analysis we did only like 2 days ago.
So that's fine. So planning's report is very clear. They refused it before, they're refusing it now. In particular, FSI and the third floor, as where only two stories are allowed, and you're proposing 3. And your FSI is like 92% more than what's allowed. It's almost double. So you did not present all these analysis to planning. I think you missed the opportunity. So I'll have other members ask questions, but I'm ready to make a motion if there are no questions.
Are there any other questions? No other questions? Okay, so we'll go back to Mr. Bellissimo for a motion.
As before, I I support the planning report and support the concerns of the neighbors and move for refusal of the application.
A seconder for that?
I'm prepared to second.
Okay, all in favor?
Planning had, okay.
Opposed? I'm going to break the tie in favor of, against the motion. I go with the opposition. So can I have a new motion? That motion fails.
Yeah, I find it's unfortunate that planning didn't have that opportunity to look at that study, because I think the applicant has made substantial effort to try to be more compliant, and I believe has been successful in doing that. Rather than moving for a deferral, I think I'd be prudent to move for approval, and I would like to therefore do so.
Thank you, Mr. Kamarick. Seconder for that motion. Ms. Alderson, all in favor? Motion carries 3-2. The application is approved with Mr. Palmer and Bellissimo dissenting. Okay, thank you, Mr. Penzo. Thank you to the neighbors who've participated. So we'll now move on to our last application of the morning session, which we started somewhat late. It's item number 21. It is.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we also have item 17 as well. So I don't know if you wanted to do that one or we can go back to it after 21. Up to you.
Okay, so let's go. Let them wait. We'll do 21. I guess we didn't. That was the one we couldn't reach the applicant, I believe.
Yeah, sorry, it wasn't that we couldn't reach them. It's that the applicant that pre-registered wasn't the applicant that was actually going to present the application. So there wasn't instructions that were followed.
Okay, so item number 21. Okay, let's do 21. It's 50 Brawley Avenue. It's to construct a one-story garage addition along the south side of the dwelling, a complete second-story addition, partial third-story addition, a rear yard deck, a new second-floor real balcony, and a third-floor rooftop deck. That is quite the shopping list. And we have the revised yellow highlighted sheet like we have on many applications. There were 7 variances. There were 9. 2 of those have been revised. We have the revised plans and a rendering. Transportation has no objection. We have objection from 47 Truman and 52 Brawley. And the revised materials, we have, we now have a further revised agenda notice page. Perhaps we can get that from a revised material. There were then 7 variances. Now there are 5. 1 have been reduced. The balcony area has been reduced. So we now have 5 variances. and that should be the plan attached in the additional materials before us. The speaker is the agent, Hamia Agamabadi, as well as then the neighbor from 49 Truman, Helen Seck. So let's hear from the agent, Hamia.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm going to make it very short and to the point. I know everyone are tired. We did a lot of back and forth with the planners to make sure we fit within the characteristic of the street. We eliminated the height of the walls and the height of the building due to their concerns and the neighbor next to us. At the same time, we reduced the rooftop balcony area because they have concerns. At the same time, we added flower box for more privacy for our neighbor. Unfortunately, I think our neighbor at 52 Brawley Avenue, her wife got hospitalized last week, so I think he could not attend this meeting. At the end, we worked on the balconies on the backside as well. We put the screens, privacy screens, to make sure they have their privacy. If you go to section B31 and B32, if you can pull up your plans, there is a section showing when it says third floor story, it's actually the access to the rooftop. That's why they're considering it as a third floor. This is not our material. This is from the previous.
Yep, just give me a second as I pull it up.
Sorry for that. Thank you. So technically, it's a renovation, and we are just adding one story on top and adding the rooftop on the third floor. To access to the rooftop, we needed that stairs to go to the third floor. That's why they are calling it third story. It's not actual third story. So if you can go to, but yeah, that's good. Yes. So as you can see, this is 1, 2, and below is the basement, and that small part, the technically the stairs is considered as the third story. That's why the name of third story is coming into the whole thing. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, any questions for the agent? So now we have the 5 variances before us, originally 9. We have one neighbor.
I have a question, which I'm not sure, sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if it's for the agent or for staff, and I just wanted to get a clarification on platforms. If you introduce a roof deck, is that not a platform? And my understanding was that only one platform is permitted, and there's 2 here, but there's no variance for a second platform.
So on each side there is one platform allowed to, correct? This one is on the rooftop. Is that what you're asking? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm asking as of right whether you're allowed one platform, and
on each floor one platform, and on each side one as a balcony. So for the privacy to the backyard and the neighbors, we put that rooftop balcony in the middle at the same time.
Yeah, that's okay.
I think you want to know, Mr. Kamerick, you're asking whether there is actually a variance to have 2 rooftop type balconies, and I don't, the way it's worded, if you look at it, the maximum permitted area in variance 7 of each platform at or above the second story. So I don't think there has to be a second variance where like there's one platform allowed and they have 3. So 2 are in.
That's what I'm getting at. So
we have to assume the variances here are correct.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So that was your question. So you don't have any other questions for the agent before you hear from the neighbor? Okay, so let's hear from the neighbor at 49 Truman, Helena Seck.
Homeowner. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you to the chairman and the committee for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Helen Seck. I'm the owner of 49 Truman Avenue, which is west of the proposed dwelling at 50 Brawley. I'm the backyard neighbor of the new building. While I respect everyone's desire to improve their residences, but it shouldn't be to the detriment of the existing neighbors. I'm opposed to the intended changes to 50 Brawley Avenue as they will have a negative impact on the surrounding homes. This neighborhood consists of one-level, older homes from the 40s and the 50s and newer two-story homes. The latter are a benefit to the area. I love it when people upgrade their homes. The newer, this intended dwelling, which the gentleman just referred to as a renovation, is not a renovation. It is a monster home. It doesn't belong in the area, being far too large in height and width, and it's not really in keeping with this neighborhood. My home and my backyard are my sanctuary in the summer as I don't own a cottage. The third-story deck of this intended dwelling will negatively impact the privacy and enjoyment of my backyard as well as the existing neighbors' backyards. This deck on the third floor will seriously decrease and impact us, our privacy, mine especially. Our privacy will be totally compromised. The variances that are being requested are not minor in nature. This intended building is too large. I respectfully request that the Committee of Adjustment refuse this application to the proposed additions to 50 Brawley. That's it. That's pretty much I'm not going to go 5 minutes. Trust me, I talk fast. Thanks very much.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Seck before we go back to the neighbor? Also, I'm just looking at your photo. You've given us a front elevation, very modern, fancy. We have a rear elevation here, and I'd like to hear if this rooftop deck is going to be somehow screened to prevent overlook and protect the privacy of the neighbors. But I'm just don't see, do we have a rendering of that? I see we have a rendering, perhaps in the revised, in the additional materials, but I'm looking at a front elevation, which is quite handsome. Is there a rear elevation we can look at, or, you know, a 3D roof view or
Michael is drawing B-24, rear elevation.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Anyway, let's go back then to Hamia for his rebuttal.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So if you can, before going to this drawing, can you pull up the B13, which is the plan drawing, so it exactly show where this rooftop patio is? Yeah, sheet number B1313. That's like, yeah, here. So as you can see, it's right in the center of the building. I understand what our neighbor on the west side is saying, but there's actually the main reason that we did not extend that all the way to the back is because we wanted to give them more privacy. And we put it the flower box after a lot of back and forth with the planners to find the best solution for that was to put a flower box, make a nice small porch here. So technically they don't have to go to the backyard balcony to enjoy the sunshine. Mostly here, actually it gives them more privacy. It does not get their privacy away. I do understand when people see that they feel like it's a monster, but as you can see, GFA is 6. It's not really that high. And yes, I understand it's a major renovation, but that's what they call it, major renovation. That's how it is. We have to keep the main 2 walls, and that's one of the reasons we have to go for the setback variances. We are building on an existing footprint. That's why the front setback variance is there. And if you want, you can now go back to that back elevation to see like how, yes, that's the front. Next one. Yeah, that's the back. And you can see it's just, there is no visibility from the rooftop, which is in the center, to that far in the other street. And we are not blocking any lights on those buildings because they're exactly on our west side. So that's all I can say in response to that neighbor. And in regard to our north neighbor, we already talked to them. We put the privacy for that, and we lowered the height of the building, so it's allowed. It's 9.5 meters and 7 meters for the main walls, which is within the bylaw. We are not exceeding that.
Okay, that's it.
Yes, unless you have any
Thank
questions.
you, sir. Okay, anyone have any questions for the agent, or is someone ready for a motion?
I have a, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I do have a question. I'm just wondering, in terms of GFA, do you happen to know the GFA of number 54, number 56, or number 58 on that street? Do you happen to know how it relates to your GFA, proposed GFA?
I don't know the exact number. When we worked with the planners, they mentioned that our GFA is not higher than them. That's why they were okay with our GFA. But I don't know the exact number of that
Okay.
GFA. Yeah.
So yeah, just for clarification, your GFA, proposed GFA is lower than any of those houses?
Yes.
On the street. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and sir, just you're okay with Urban Forestry is asking for condition number 2 on this application?
Sorry?
Urban Forestry is requesting their condition number 2?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, anyone ready for a motion?
I have a question still, Mr. Chair, relating to parking, because variance 9 is stating that no parking is to be provided. I'm assuming you are providing parking, but it will be substandard and therefore not considered illegal parking.
Exactly. If you look at
I just have a concern about if we approve this. I don't want it to be approved that you are absolved from providing any parking.
So if you look into the report from the transportation service, at the end, the conclusions say that, and that was a back and forth between us, them, and actually planners, because planners, we could provide that width if we would have less setback on our south side, correct? The planners were like, we want that to be as is. We don't want you to have more. You can have a car there. We understand it's not by law. Figure it out with transportation. Transportation was like, we are okay with that because you have a platform in front that you can park on it. The only thing is the width of the parking is not as much as it should be by law, so they don't consider it as a parking. So by definition, not by 2.7 meter, which is enough for a car to park and open the door, which is technically for an outdoor parking.
I get all that. I just want to make sure that we're not going to eliminate the driveway, and then if we pass this, then all of a sudden, no parking will be provided. So maybe that's a question.
No. Oh, okay. No, there's no way we can eliminate that driveway because that's the access to the garage as well, right? And we need
yes,
that.
Absolutely.
We rather have 2 parking even instead of that one. They use the inside garage.
Okay, so sorry, my question is really more for staff.
Okay.
Madam Chair or Secretary Treasurer, to alleviate that concern, do we say that the parking is substandard or do we say that there's no parking?
They've kind of got both because variance number 8 does refer to a deficient sized parking space.
Okay, so by granting that, we're ensuring that a parking will be provided.
Yeah, and you can always add a condition, parking shall be provided as illustrated on the
Perfect. Done.
Whatever
okay.
Floor plan.
Okay, thank you.
Like to weigh in with a motion?
I'm going to try. I believe that the 4 tests are met and the application is appropriate. I would like to move approval subject to a number of conditions. Forestry condition number 2, and subject to parking being provided as illustrated. And I believe that's it.
As illustrated on what?
On the site plan or the drawing submitted. I'm not sure which.
Stuff that's been sufficient to.
Yeah, we can tweak the wording. I think it's within the proposal.
Okay, so you understand what Mr. Komarek wants to do. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, so seconded for Mr. Komarek's motion. Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. We'll now have to just one more item on the morning agenda, back to item number 17, 21 Snowberry Avenue. It's an application for a 1-story rear addition. There's 1 variance, coverage, 80 square meters. I believe we introduced this and we couldn't reach The agent, Mr. Di Tommaso. So, Mr. Di Tommaso, we now have you. Welcome.
It's Peter here. Hi. Hello?
Hello? So the speaker for item number 17 is?
Peter Canales. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, sorry. Yes, I'm speaking on behalf of 21 Snowberry.
Okay, because I had Bruno Di Tommaso on my list, but you're with his, you're with him.
I'm the owner of the property, yes. Sorry about
You're
that.
the owner of the property. Okay, Peter Canale, I see you now listed on the notice. Okay, so I'm glad you're with us. One variance. I don't think we need a presentation. I see you have a letter of support from your neighbor.
Yep.
So yeah, from 23, 18, and 19, and you have the one coverage variance. So let's see if anyone has any questions. We do have supporting materials in our additional materials. If someone's ready for a motion or have any questions for you.
Danny Bellissimo is ready for a motion if there are no further questions at all. This is a bungalow addition. The character of the building is maintained. I find the variance is minor in nature. Move for approval.
Thank you. No conditions. Seconded for that motion. Mr. Komarek, thank you. All in favor? You have unanimous approval, Mr. Canale.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Okay. Okay, members, I think we did a good job of trying to catch up here. However, it is now 1:36. Madam Secretary Treasurer, what time do you want to reconvene? 2:45? Usually want slightly over an hour.
2:45. Yeah.
Okay, let's be back at 2:45 to do the afternoon session. Have an enjoyable break, everyone.
Just a quick note to all the participants on the line before we go to break. As the chair mentioned, we'll be resuming at 2:45. At about 2:30 or maybe even 2:25, we'll begin the sound check for the afternoon session. So just advising that we won't be moving forward until about 2:25 with the hearing starting at 2:45.